the statue Steiner carved for the first Goetheanum called the representative of mankind. And in it, Christ is standing in the middle, and he's holding one hand up, holding Lucifer back. Yes, and holding one arm down, holding Ahriman in the underground, controlling both of them. Because both Lucifer and Ahriman have something good that can be redeemed from them, as long as you don't believe their lies and go too far up or too far down. In other words, Lucifer, it is levity. Ahriman is gravity. Lucifer wants to speed things up and take you into the realm of the angels too soon, which will basically be like pulling you out of the atmosphere of the earth and getting fried by the sun before we have developed bodies enough to receive the light of the sun without the atmosphere of the earth, which will come in the future, as a matter of fact. And then Ahriman wants to pull you down. Now, it isn't that Ahriman has been hanging out in the 8th sphere for a long time, waiting to just jump up and get humans. No, that isn't the way it worked. There was a necessary task Ahriman had, and it was to bring us into, and Ahriman, by the way, Ahriman, there is an individual Ahriman, probably incarnated right now on the earth, who is hoping to incarnate into machines and control human beings by sucking their willpower out of them, sucking their freedom, sucking their feelings, turning them cold and dead, and turning their thoughts into basically dead thoughts. So as we're falling into the submaterial realm because we're letting machines do our thinking, we're letting our entertainment and anything that delights us deaden our feeling realm, especially the realm of love, and then sports and violence and twisted sexual desire, because it deadens the capacity for you to have free will and be in charge of your will. So thinking, feeling, and willing, the negative forms of it, are being sucked into the 8th sphere. Now, does the 8th sphere have some magical power to suck things into it? No. It is Lucifer, Ahriman, the Asuras working for Sorat. Lucifer, Ahriman, and the Asuras and Sorath are all working through the 8th sphere in some cases. The Asuras love actually to work more from the moon. But the being Sorat wants to basically steal the future. Lucifer incarnated years ago. Christ was incarnated once. Ahriman is probably incarnated now. And Sorat has yet to incarnate. But his beings who do his bidding are already here, because evil is having its day with us, because humanity as a whole has been pulled across the threshold. And all their evil has become very visible, because the evil can't go across the threshold into the spiritual world. But those people who are spiritual are really happy, because now you can see into the spiritual world very easily. And many people are clairvoyant and have tremendous capacities now. It's amazing. This is from the contents of the esoteric classes. The Asuras inhabit the moon, and from there they work on men whom they want to drag down into the 8th sphere and thereby tear away from progressive evolution and its goal, the Christ. All those who strive towards the 8th sphere will eventually live on a moon. Now you see how people get confused? On a moon, not the moon. And the Asuras work from the moon. So then the Asuras also work from the 8th sphere, so they assume the 8th sphere is on the moon. No. And the moon that the subhumans are falling into, the 8th sphere they're falling into, will be a moon on Jupiter, not this moon. On Jupiter, the densest matter of the next incarnation of the Earth on Jupiter, there'll be a planet, but you'll be able to see through it, because there'll be nothing saved from Earth that you can perceive with your senses right now. None of that. But spiritualized minerals and also materialized minerals will be carried over, because basically the intent of the Earth is to leave minerals behind. That's when minerals were created. Minerals, plants, animals, humans, right? So it's the oldest substance. But in the end, it's going to be the substance that transforms all of this stuff in the future too. Spiritualized minerals and also materialized minerals. Ahriman is the being who caused the densification, calcification of substance all the way down to the midpoint, to to the incarnation of Christ, which is called the turning point of time. It's the lowest, densest part of incarnation. And then Christ redeemed it, and it started to go up into the realm of redeeming the earth. But some, of course, won't be able to follow that, and they will get stuck here, the sphere of electromagnetism, electricity.
If one thrusts light down to the submaterial, that is to say, a stage deeper than the material world, electricity arises. What we know as electricity is light that is destroying itself within matter.
So Ahriman is about the coming down into crystallization to condensing into matter. Like, let's hear science define love. Let's hear science define grace, or the warmth, light, sound, and life that comes from the sun. Let's hear them even describe life. They can look at the components, they can tear them apart and kill them as they are coming down with Ahriman into the physical world, into death, into illness and death, into concrete matter, and then not turning away from that. It's kind of like the sun at the winter solstice. If it keeps going into darkness, well, that's the end of the earth, isn't it? If it just keeps going dark. But it turns, apparently, and starts to become light the next day. So the darkest night, or the darkest days of the year, turns at a certain point. Well, the same thing has happened with the mystery of Golgotha. It has turned, and it's going now on the upward ascension. And so we're working on ascension. Those people in the eighth sphere, they're not working on anything. And it is Lucifer working hard to pull them into the eighth sphere by deluding them to think that they deserve these magical machines that we use that require no morality to work. Like a laptop requires no morality, but what you can do with a laptop is beyond even possible of comprehending. And so we have now very clever machines made by Ahriman. It's materialism. Ahriman is materialism. And Lucifer is too much spiritualism. If you hang out with Lucifer too much, you become an ungrounded dreamer. And if you spend any time in Ahriman's world, because this is Ahriman's world right now, it's a world of materialism, hypermaterialism, and superstition science, what happens to you? Just like the good scientists, they become selfish egotists, completely filled with cleverness. Ahriman started to incarnate in humanity very solidly in 1840 when mechanization came into being, and we started to think like a machine, or we made machines that look like they think, but they don't. That's machine intelligence. There is a machine intelligence, but we don't want to become that. Because where is machine intelligence? It's in this computer. It's in this cell phone. It's in things that are below the earth. These are minerals that have been made to look like they're plants, like they're living, like they could do something. Your phone, it's like it's alive. Your computer, it's alive. Every time you use it, the eighth sphere comes up from below the ground into our realm and sits here right in front of me. And if I don't do spiritual work with this machine, it eats me. It eats my thinking, my feeling, my willing. That's the eighth sphere. From Foundations of Esotericism, Rudolf Steiner says, if, however, the human being has connected himself too strongly with the forces of the senses, which should now detach themselves, if he is related to them and has not found the way to attach himself to what is to pass over to the next globe, Jupiter, he will depart with the slag and become an inhabitant of this body of slag. In the same way as other beings are now inhabitants of our present moon, here we have the concept of the eighth sphere. Mankind must go through 7 spheres. The 7 planetary evolutions, or incarnations, correspond to the 7 bodies of the human being. And besides these, there's the 8th sphere, to which everything goes that cannot make any connection with this continuous evolution of the 7 spheres of the Manvantara. A person who cannot escape from his own separateness goes into Avicii, the 8th sphere, that's the Vedic name for it, all these Avicii men, or subhumans, will eventually become inhabitants of the eighth sphere. The other human beings will be inhabitants of the continuing chain of evolution. It is from this concept that religions have formulated the doctrine of hell. But the Trinity and the hierarchy always takes care of everyone. Ultimately, when Lucifer, Ahriman, and Saurat and his Asuras can capture a soul and pull that soul right now 100% into the eighth sphere, then it annihilates that person's soul. And if the person does not work to get out of that mess, then it will eventually darken their spirit, and they will come back when the rest of us are Elohim, and we're creating a new world. The beings in the eighth sphere on the earth right now that go to the moon of Jupiter, that go to the moon of Venus, that then basically go out into the cosmos after that, it all gets turned into a big mush. But it's a mush that remembers. It's a mush that remembers every single thing. It's the Akasha. It's the Akashic soup that is like the Chronicles of Time. It's like the pillars that are in the Wisdom Temple, or it's called the Wisdom Temple of Pan Sophia. Or New Jerusalem. You call it 1,000 names. But they break apart into the components. But when they recombine, it's at a higher level, and it is for a different purpose. So Rudolf Steiner describes these beings when humans go on to be angels, that in Jupiter, these beings will be on a moon that is kind of like a muck of mud. And literally he uses these words. And it's terrible because a lot of people make fun of this, including myself. They're slug people. That's what the way Steiner said it. They won't be able to raise their head up because they will be moving around with no arms or no legs in a muck of mud, and they won't be able to see anything like we think is the sun. And in the future, as we go up into Jupiter, Venus, Vulcan, Angel, Archangel, Archai, these subhumans that come out of the eighth sphere during the Earth incarnation of the Earth will be working to pull them up out of that sphere. Because when you reach the rank of an angel in the Jupiter sphere, if you're a human who's become an angel in the Jupiter sphere, you won't be able to witness suffering without you directly giving up a part of yourself to help stop that suffering. Now, in the Jupiter incarnation of the Earth, there are black magicians, and those black magicians try to keep the slug people down in the mud and not looking up and not trying to evolve and not trying to receive the help of the angels who are trying to minister to them. Okay, so they talk about who are the black magicians? Well, those are subhumans. And also these other beings who work through that realm, who have fallen in the past, who don't evolve. They don't go to the next step. There's a next step being taken by all of humanity. They don't take that one either. So they can be 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps behind. And those are serious black magicians. So look around us now. Do you not see the black magicians? There are politicians. There are liars. These are professional paid liars. These are people who are making sure that people die in Ukraine and in Russia right now, in World War I, World War II, all the wars. They are black magicians.